Okay, let's go over third degree brown belt. This belt is definitely a little bit more difficult than the last few belts. We deal with a lot more weapons in this belt, different kind of weapons, and we deal with multiple attackers. So as you're going through this belt, it's good to categorize and kind of split those categories apart of what is a single attack by one person, what is a double attack by one person, what is a two-man attack. You know, this way it's easier to take these in chunks because it can be overwhelming. But boy, it's one of the funnest belts we have. The first one is called Glancing Spear. And Glancing Spear gets its name because one of my right strikes would be glancing off of his forearm into his eyes in the shape of a spear. So this is a right direct wrist grab to my left arm, so his right to my left arm. So the first thing I'm going to do is take my right hand and pin his hand to my hand. I'm going to take my right foot, I'm going to step straight back, and I need to drive my arms down, okay? That's called a dipping check, because if I just pull him straight back like this, it's easy for his left hand to punch me in the face, okay? I know it's hard when we're just doing it with just me in here, but this is what we got right now, okay? So again, I'm grabbing here, stepping back with my right foot, dipping down to the ground, and then I drive up. I got his right arm coming right across here, so from this position, I will turn back into a neutral bow. Actually, I'm going to go into a horse stance here, okay? And you'll see why. So I go into a horse, drive a left elbow into his ribs to kind of stand them back up, okay? But this is also allowing me to insert strike. So from this outward left elbow, his arm is across our arms. My right hand is going to bounce right off of his arm as I catapult myself into a forward bow, okay? Call that ratcheting. This way we have multiple strikes timed with multiple stances. I don't want to throw a strike and not move my feet in some way because I'm not generating any power that way, okay? So 1, reverse bow, 2, horse stance elbow, 3, left forward bow as I poke to the eyes, okay? And now my right hand is going to guide line right down to his right wrist. And as that happens, I'm going to sweep my left foot towards 430, which is going to open up his stance, okay? At the same time, I don't want him following me, because if he follows me, then his stance won't be as wide, okay? So I want to keep him in place so his body trunk stays here, and his right leg will get spread out to 430 along with my twist stance, okay? So elbow, poke, grab, and I will check here, or you can call it a chop to the ribs here as I sweep. That keeps him in place. And now right from here, I'm going to unwind all the way around and take my right leg and whip it through his legs, through his right leg. He'll fall backwards here. I unwind towards about 10 o'clock, drive a downward looping kick, and cross out to 4 o'clock. All right? I'll do it from the back side. Get down, reverse, horse, forward bow, grab, spread, unwind. Now to 530. I'm out. Move to the side. That's Glancing Spear. Okay, thrust into darkness. Anytime you get a darkness technique or a technique with the name darkness in it, that means they're coming from the rear or from the sides, typically from the rear. So they're coming from the back of the room, okay? In this technique, they're doing a right step through punch to the back of my head here. Now, we're not magicians, and I say this in class a lot. It doesn't mean that we're walking down the street and all of a sudden we hear somebody coming and we move right into our technique, okay? I mean, I guess that's possible, but for me, that's not realistic, okay? This type of technique to me is I'm arguing with somebody behind me. And as I turn to walk away, they step and throw a punch at my head, okay? Of course, when I walk away, I'm looking at my opponent as I walk away. You know, I want to make sure I'm safe. But that's when they throw the punch. So the position is they're now behind me, okay? I mean, I guess I could be walking somewhere and somebody approaches me and I shoot forward after I look over my shoulder. That's totally possible too, but not in the sense where I'm minding my own business. I'm not looking over my shoulder. I don't know what's happening, you know, and I just turn and start striking. That just doesn't seem realistic to me. So try to understand the attack, right? So in this technique, I'm gonna take my right foot, come forward towards 12 o'clock. My left foot is gonna be in a rear cat stance. My left hand is down, checking low, and my right hand checks over my shoulder to protect my jaw. Because if I get hit in that jaw, I'm in big trouble, okay? I'm in the rear cat because I'm going to kick to the rear, the left thrust kick. So I'm here, and I thrust to any available target, preferably to the belly, to the chest, the groin if I have to, okay? Here. And now I'm gonna plant my foot, but I'm gonna plant it in a fashion that when I unwind, I'm in a neutral bow facing my opponent, okay? So that's important. Don't fall over when you turn over. Here, bend your front knee, kick, plant, turn. When I turn, I must be on guard because I don't know what they're gonna throw from here. And depending on the distance, if I hit him in the belly or the chest and they move back, I have some distance here. I'm not gonna get hit by one of those punches unless they lunge in. If I hit him in the groin, that could cause them to bend forward towards me and possibly grab my left leg. So that's why I like to hit a little bit higher on the body. And now right from here, where I can see my opponent, now I'm gonna throw a ball kick at my opponent. And this time I can go to the groin if I want to, okay? So I'm just striking to my opponent. And now my hands are going to cross to my left in a cup and saucer fashion as my left foot crosses over my right into a twist stance. Now, we have two options. You can kick the front leg, which is the right leg, or I guess just to say you can kick the right leg, which could be the front leg, or you can kick the left leg, which could be in the front, depending on what your second ball kick just did, or that first ball kick, your second kick. Here, this kick right here is going to dictate how they move. So if you kick to the left side of their body, you might in turn put their right foot to the front because the hip will move back. If you hit them in the center, then it's just a kind of a guess of what's going to happen. So just be aware of that. Now, if I kick out their right leg with my knife edge kick, that's coming with my right leg here, and they spin clockwise, and now I have the front of their body to strike. If they spin counterclockwise because I hit their left knee, then that gives me their back. My weapons, my next strikes are going to be the exact same thing no matter what, but it's going to change your targets on your body, on their body. Okay? So again, I come forward, I check, I bend low, make sure my head's over my knee, I kick, plant, unwind. And I'm kind of going to about 6:30 from here. Okay? I kick with a right front ball kick, plant, left hand, right hand, cup and saucer to my left, cross over. And now I'm going to take out whatever front knee is closest to me. And as I plant, I come back with a right back knuckle and a right vertical punch to their body as I turn to a forward bow. And right from here, I cross over and out. And we call this a survey. I'm seeing what my opponent's going to do. They start to get back up. I cross behind with my left foot, drive a right kick, and step back out. Okay? One more time. Thrust into darkness. Okay. Circling fans. Circling fans is against a right to left combo punch. So it's a single man, 2 strikes. Okay? What I want to do is utilize what we call fan parries. My right hand is going to parry downwards with the palm of my hand here to knock down his hand. Okay? So as he shoots, I strike down. He shoots with the other hand, I push down with my left hand. Okay? Now, this can go either way. Okay? If they jab with the left, I knock the left down. As the right comes, my left hand knocks his right hand down. Okay? And now I kick to the body. Kick to the groin, kick to the belly. Okay? If they throw a right, I can go across and smack the right hand down. As the left comes in, I can knock that one down too. Okay? And kick. I'm going to plant forward and uppercut right to the chin, vertical uppercut. Right from here, I'm going to cross over my left foot and drive a left vertical punch right to his belly, kind of like we're doing in alternating maces. Okay? So we have 1, 2, kick, plant, strike. Right hand's going to check anything down because his hands might come up. His hands might come towards me. I'm going to check it down and plant so my left foot lands with my punch. As soon as that happens, I'm going to insert a quick knee. So it's just that quarter beat timing right there. So one and that's going to go to any available target, okay? I've seen this done many ways where this knee can come up right into the belly, right into the groin. It depends on the height of the opponent, okay? I've seen other instances where their right knee is right in front of me. So you can strike the right knee away towards the corner of the room. These belts don't have to be as precise with the targeting as you did back in the beginning when you're really trying to understand what the reaction is going to be from a strike. As a brown belt, you already get that, okay? We were very accurate when it came to our techniques in green belt, okay? So we really start to pinpoint and fine point these different actions that our actions cause, or reactions our actions cause. As a brown belt, you can kind of play with that a little bit, okay? Because things aren't so precise anymore because these are longer techniques. So things are going to change. So play with the different things in these techniques, the different reactions, and see what they do. Because, well, you should know at this point anyway, but see how it changes your technique, okay? So it's 1 quarter beat timing, 2. As soon as I hit the groin, the belly, or the inside of that right knee, his head would come straight down, okay? So you can see where my right hand is. When I threw that knee here, my right hand came back. My left hand became the checking hand. This allows economy of motion, allows me to chamber and come up with an upward lifting forearm strike under his chin. Okay, it's a real sweet move. I love that combination. So down, in, kick, plant, come over, knee. Plant, boom, right under the chin. And now right from here, as the head's going back, exposes the chest. I just drop some marriage of gravity with a vertical downward elbow to a solar plexus to the throat here, depending on the height of the opponent, right there, okay? And now I'm going to cross out, survey the room, see what the opponent's going to do. If he's coming back towards me, cross behind, kick, and out. Okay, if I do it from the side, downward fan parry, inward downward fan parry, kick, plant, strike. Look at the check. Right hand's checking, left hand's punching. And now I'm going to switch as I throw my knee. It allows me to drop my right hand. And now I come right under the chin, pop, drop my elbow, come out, come back in. Now survey kick is cool. I like it. I like the idea of that, okay? But understand that you can throw the kick right from point of origin. So when I get to the point where here, boom, 1, 2, 3, 4, they start to fall away, I can follow right up with the back kick there, okay? But understand the importance of a survey. You don't want to overdo it, so you go away, they start to come back in, you can go back in for a kick. But you have to re-engage again, you have to get back into the range. You're already there from the beginning of that technique. Okay, so you have to weigh those differences, understand why we survey, and then you decide if it's the right thing for you. Okay, rotating destruction. Rotating destruction is a right thrust kick to my stomach, and as they plant, they follow up with a spinning back kick with their left. Now this technique kind of takes a green belt technique called Circle of Doom to the next level. Circle of Doom, if you remember, is we get rid of the kick, we throw it away, we have a gap between our legs, we shoot in with a heel kick or an upward lifting kick depending on the distance, plant here, and an upward heel kick or a spinning hook kick depending on the reaction of your first kick. This technique is the same beginning. I'm on guard. I got my right hand low because they keep kicking. And when somebody keeps kicking, you can drop that right hand, keep your left hand high, of course, to protect your jaw and your face. But you can use that right hand to catch kicks really easy. So that's what we're doing here. So when I catch that kick by going into a reverse bow to move my trunk away from my opponent, okay, curl, throw it away. As soon as I throw that leg away, he plants and right into a spinning back kick, just like somebody with a little bit more knowledge would do. So once I've gotten to that point, I take my right leg and I twist behind. I see that kick coming. I just do a rear twist, rear right twist, okay? So from here, I twist, left hand comes high. And now what I'm gonna do is unwind into a front left roundhouse kick. That's a difficult kick. It feels weird to spin into that kick. At least it does for me. So it takes a little bit of practice. So 1, 2, 3 into 4. Now depending on how high you can kick, your target is going to be the chest or the head, okay? If you can't kick high at all, then you go for the groin if you have to. Okay, but at this stage, you should be able to go pretty high at this point, right? So we're in that twist stance, checking high, unwind, kick, and I'm going to plant down. Now this is a gauging leg. I have to determine where my opponent is before I put this foot down. If he's really close, I can't step so far in before I throw this big hooking heel kick with my right leg, because I'm going to hit him with the back of my thigh, okay? So my left leg gauges where I need to go, or gauges the distance between us so I know where I need to spin from, my pivot point, okay? That's important in this technique, and a lot of times people will fail this technique because they can't figure out that gauging leg. You got to gauge your distance. See, I planted kind of shallow this time because in my mind, I don't have a lot of space. Now I unwind and throw a hooking kick or a hooking heel kick to his face, to his chest, whatever target I can hit, and then I cross back out. I'm getting ready for a survey. Now we've already crossed behind a couple times at this point, so what I'm going to do from here is do a leaping side kick, okay? So it's kind of like I'm doing a chicken kick to the side. Left leg comes up, that allows me to catapult, and as I come down, my right leg's up, and I do a knife edge kick to the inside or to the front side of his lead knee, okay? So I'll do it from the side this time. My hands low. I parry it away, catch it, throw it away, unwind, checking. I kick, gauge the distance. Spinning heel kick, cross out to the corner of the room, come in, leap into the knee, and cross out, okay? Okay, we're gonna get into Falcons of Force. Falcons of Force is against a two-man attack. The guy to my right towards 3 o'clock, bad guy number 1, is gonna be grabbing my shoulder. Bad guy number 2 towards 9 o'clock is grabbing onto my left shoulder. There's different ways to maneuver through this technique, and I've seen many, many ways over my years doing this, okay? The way I do it might be a little bit different than the manual that you guys have, or maybe the journal, okay? But it's just my preferred way to do this. Explore this stuff because you really should at this stage, like I've said before in other techniques, right? The brown belts to me are the belts of adjustments. You adjust, you tailor to your body. You tailor these, some of these foot maneuvers to the way that you prefer to move at this point because you kind of have your own accent and tempo at this point, right? So this is how I do it. So this technique, we have guy number 1 grabbing my shoulder. So just like sword and hammer as a beginner, I pin and I chop as I step out to 3 o'clock. Now I take my right foot and I step out towards about 11 o'clock, okay? As I do that, my right hand is gonna check over my shoulder, all right? Because I have to deal with guy number 2. So 1, 2. And now here's a little thing that I like to do is if I am striking this guy here, and guy number 2 isn't striking me, but he's just grabbing onto me, my check doesn't necessarily just have to be a check. So what I do is I fill dead space there. I take my check and still check his motion or check his ability to strike by being offensive rather than defensive, okay? So when I strike to the throat, I fill the space with an eye slice. It's the same position as my check. It goes to the same place on my body, but rather than just being defensive, I turn it into an offense. So 1, I slice here, and now I'm gonna take my left foot and I twist around to the back. Behind me here towards about 11:30 is I chop to guy number 2 towards 7:30. There's other ways you can do this. You can chop out here. I can step to 11:30 and check here. And now what I can do is step out to the front of the room and chop. It goes to the same place, okay? So it's just another way to do it. So again, I chop. Right foot towards the corner of the room. I slice. And now my left hand replaces my right with a chop right to the neck as my left foot twists around me. This allows me to see the whole room, so as guy number one comes back and throws maybe a punch or a back knuckle or a push or something, I unwind and face my opponent at 3 o'clock to 3:30 with an inward block followed immediately by a right kick, okay? I kick him right in the belly. And now I plant my right foot back to where it started. I take my left foot, step towards 1030 again in a rear left twist. And now I can drive a right back kick towards my opponent, because that's where he was when I chopped him. So if he's coming back in at me, I chop. And now I twist right back over to where I started, okay? In this technique, the way that I teach this in class, guy number one does not attack, or doesn't throw anything as he comes back in, he just approaches. This way we can kind of teach how to deal with the next step of this technique. There are different ways where if he does throw something, I can block, maybe break, come in with a twist. So it's kind of like the end of this technique, but there's just a lot more added to it to deal with a strike. It's just a little bit too much, okay? So I like to take the route of we don't deal with any more strikes coming from guy number one. We're just gonna do a strike down for us. So let's get back to where we started, 3 o'clock with the right chop. I go to about 11 to 11:30 with my right foot as I slice or check over my shoulder. Gets me out of the way, but also allows me this incredible chop with my left hand. My right hand is already up. So as I unwind, looking over my shoulder and see guy number one coming back in, he throws a punch from here. I can block and kick, plant, cross behind. Of course, my left hand is over my shoulder, right hand's by my hip, and kick. And now as guy number one comes back towards me without a strike, I plant my right foot in a twist. Here comes that gauge and leg we talked about. I got to plant it wherever I can to get to his right leg. Okay? If his right leg is out towards 12, then I got to plant deeper towards 12. So when I spin, I can hook that right leg. He falls with his head towards 1030, and I come back over with my kick. If his left leg is, if his right leg is closer to me, then I plant towards 430. So when I unwind, I can hit that same leg. As that gauge and leg, it's one of the harder parts of third-degree brown belt, but it's so important. It's going to have you learn so much more about your footwork as far as how to gauge distance before an offensive strike with your legs. So when you go backwards through your belts, that old stuff like snake and talon and techniques like that are a little bit more difficult getting into kicks, they'll feel a lot more easy to you. You'll be at ease when you throw these kicks because you've learned a little bit more of a more difficult phase of setting up these kicks up in the brown belts. Let's see, so we go backwards. I'm here, chop. I twist to the, or step to the corner, slice, twist to the corner, strike. Okay? I unwind, I block, I kick. I plant, step, kick, twist out. This is part of the gauging right here. If I threw this kick and this guy is so close to me, I would not twist forward, but we assume there's a gap between us. Otherwise, I would kick, plant, and even adjust back further before I throw this sweeping leg kick before I kick. Right? But that's not the technique goes, so we'll go back to where we were and we kick towards 130 here. I cross out, I gauge my left leg anywhere in this circle that I need to gauge. So I can drag him with his legs down, put him over with a kick, and cross out to the corner of the room. I do it from the side. Okay, the next technique is going to be the bear and the ram. This is another technique where you're dealing with two people grabbing you at once. I have guy number two behind me with a bear hug with my arms free. Okay, just grabbing onto me. And the person in front of me, guy number one, is going to be throwing a step through right thrusting punch at my head. So what I want to do here is as the guy in front of me is coming, I have to worry about the guy behind me too that's got me to bear hug. Why has he got me to bear hug? Is he just holding me for the kick, for the puncher in front, or is he trying to throw me to the ground? So I'm gonna throw a kick to guy number one, just to kind of help out with not getting punched in the face, as I throw a right inward strike, inward block to the inside of his arm, okay? So I'm here. Now, as that's happening, I like to sink down in my stance. So my left leg is gonna bend. It's not so easy to do, but I gotta try to check the guy behind me so he can't pick me up. So think about that. And you can also take this left leg and drop it if you see if there's some time in there, okay? If this guy's walking towards you and he's got his hands up, you know you can sink down. You've got some time to do that. But if he's in front of you and you can't sink out, all you have to do is just drop your weight here and kick, okay? So another cool little move too is as you're blocking the right punch from the guy in front of you, you can take your left hand and hook it over his wrist if it's coming at you, and you go underneath and snap the elbow. It's a cool little trick I learned. So it looks more like this. It puts your arm in the same position that it needs to be for the next move, which is essentially crashing wings is an orange belt. So it's kind of like an extension, but a pre-extension. So it's in the beginning of the technique. So we have one, and now I drop out and peel. I do a C-step just like I did in crashing wings, elbow to the face, claw to the face. I'm in my horse stance with the claw. I turn all the way around, strike into the bladder, okay? Now I'm gonna take my left foot and cross behind towards 12 o'clock. And I'm gonna do a heel kick to guy number one, who could be coming back towards me, because I remember I kicked him already, right? So I do like what I call a pendulum kick. I kick here, and then I just reverse this motion and ball kick to guy number two to separate him. I cross out towards three and step out, okay? And now we do another type of survey kick here. Now remember, we're dealing with the gaseous state of Kempo, or if you haven't heard that, we're dealing with the gaseous state of Kempo in this belt. So I'm trying to fill the space and separate these two like gas in a balloon, okay? Not water in a balloon, we're all close. Everything's just kind of in the same space. We're spreading like gas would, okay? So in that vein here, if I got guy number two coming or guy number one, my survey kick has to deal a blow to both of these guys to separate them, keep myself centered in the center of the balloon, okay? So I'm gonna do a left ball kick to 730. I'm gonna cross out here with my left foot towards 12 or 1030, depending on your angle, and I'm gonna do a knife edge kick towards guy number one. And now I'm gonna cross out towards about 3 o'clock, step out, and I'm back in the center, okay? So from the beginning, we have 1, 2, elbow, claw, strike. And he's gonna check position. I kick, I kick. I said earlier to cross out towards 3, that's not quite correct. I want to cross out, my right foot's gonna drop at 130. So when I come out, I change my angle a little bit. Okay, I think that's probably a better bet. And now I do my ball kick towards the corner, twist, knife edge kick, out towards about 3:30, 3 o'clock. And now I'm between my opponents at 3. So my angle has changed, but I'm still in the center. Okay, if I do it backwards, sink down, kick, plant. Okay, 3-step, elbow, all the way around that corner. Here, look over my shoulder. Back kick, front kick, out. Knife, ball kick, knife edge kick, cross over, and now I'm at 9 o'clock, just the opposite side of the room. Perfectly facing 3, or perfectly centered facing 3. That's the goal with that technique. Okay, let's move on. We have a right step overhead knife. This is reining lance. I really like reining lance. It's one of the more difficult techniques to figure out. The timing is really goofy, okay? As the knife is coming overhead, I don't want to stick my arm out like this because he's going to slice right down my forearm. So I like to do like a vertical parry here, outward parry. This way I can turn and grab against that wrist. And I try to curl my hand away to keep the knife from hitting my forearm, which may not work, right? You got to try your best to try to get your limbs out of the way while still making contact, because we want to be able to control this guy while he's holding a knife, right? So as I come in, I'm going to come in with my other hand and go against the wrist. And I'm going to continue this circle and drive that knife right into his leg. Okay, it's a big technique here, guys. So I'm stepping out towards 11. Now if I'm in a neutral bow, I'm just shooting towards 11. Okay? Try to keep my arms out of the way as much as I can as I follow this. Hey, we've done this before. We did this in capturing the storm. It's a green belt. Okay? Same type of motion at the beginning of this technique. Now when we deal with knife techniques, we're going to do them in two ways. One is with the weapon, one is without. So this knife, I drive right into his thigh somewhere. And as soon as I make contact, I go into a forward bow and drive an elbow right into the ribs to stand him up or into the chest. And now my right hand is going to check down at the knife. My left hand is going to come up and grab the throat. Okay? So I'm just using 4 fingers and a thumb right against his throat. And now I'm going to switch. I'm going to take my left hand and put my forearm across the knife or his hand. I might have to get a little bit lower. Now, if you do need to gauge your distance vertically, you do not bend forward, or try to limit that as much as you can, okay? I want to use my legs to come down. Change levels with legs, okay? This way my face ain't going forward into knees or punches. So as my left forearm checks that knife into his leg, my hand's going to grab his groin. And now I'm going to do like a crab pincer where my middle finger and my thumb goes right to the eyes. Okay? And now from here, once again, because there's a knife right there, I'm going to check down. And as I do that, I'm going to do a back to front switch. My legs are going to come together. I'm not standing straight up. I'm keeping my legs bent. Okay? And if he's a taller guy, now I extend my legs into a standing up position as I do a reverse upward forearm strike under his chin. And then I'm going to do a roll and hook his neck. Now there's 2 schools right here if you watch me from the side. Okay? So we've already done this. Come in, I ride on the outside of that knife, drive. Forward bow, grab the cookies, check with your forearm, grab the eyes. And now as I come up, I strike to the neck, roll, and I'm going to either go backwards or forward, okay? Most of the curriculum will have you drop forward with your legs, or come forward and drop them into your knee, okay? I like to step back. I feel like I can pull somebody's weight easier than I can push somebody's weight, okay? Just for me, it's easier. So, and I find that a lot of my students say the same thing when we go on this technique. They're like, gee, I wish I could just step back and pull and let them fall like I did in backbreaker. So that's what we do here. It's just an adjustment that we make to make this easier for us, okay? Because it's all about being a little bit more simple, right? Why make things a little bit harder for you, especially if you're smaller compared to your opponent? So I shoot, hook, step back, and drive him right onto my knee. I'm going to let go of that knife. I'm going to do barehanded version of this technique. Come over the top and strike a hammer fist right to his solar plexus, right to his heart, his clavicle, whatever I can strike. And from here, I'm just going to do a heel palm to the face and have him roll off my leg. And as he's rolling, reverse bow, hammer fist to the back of the head or the base of the neck, and I'm out. Okay, if I do that from the side, I'm out. Okay? The knife is just an extension of your weapon, so everything is the same. Okay? The whole technique is going to be the same. So we work with this technique. I'm parrying, boom, boom, up. Here, remember I'm grabbing, my forearm is doing the checking. If I need to bend down, bend with my legs. Pop up if he's a real tall person. I extend. If not, I just stay low. Because I want my legs to be low. It's economy of motion, because when I step back, they're going to be bent anyway. So just keep that same height from the ground. Just a little bit faster, shaves time. Now, I get him onto my knee, I pull the knife out, stab into the chest. And now when I do this heel palm, I roll the knife across the throat or the face and cut. And as they fall, right to the back into the lungs with a knife and cross out. So if I have a knife in my hand, come back, let's say the knife was in their leg here, I'm popping it out, I'm stabbing ripping stab out towards the back of the room, about 7:30, okay? That is Branding Lance. Okay, Desperate Falcons. Desperate Falcons is two hand grab to your wrists, single man. Here's another technique that this kind of goes in two different directions. Once you get to a certain point, the fork in the road is there, okay? And I know it's not always good to confuse students with a lot of material and say, here's 4 versions of this technique. The reason I do this is because I find that a lot of people get stuck in one specific area because their opponent doesn't go or they want them to go, or the technique is teaching us that they go. It doesn't always work out, okay? And one of the worst things to do is to get to one of those forks in the road and say, well, I can't do my technique because it changed, because they did something I didn't expect. We should still go forward and do our technique, right? We should still, even though we if we're in class, we'll just restart and try it again, but finish your technique. If they're in a different position, it doesn't mean it's the end of the technique. It doesn't mean that something went so wrong that the technique didn't work anymore. It's just something changed. You cannot dictate at all times what your opponent's going to do. I understand a lot of arts say, well, if you punch him here, this is exactly how he's going to turn. That's not true. You don't know what he's going to do or she's going to do. Okay, so you have to kind of play along here and graft your techniques or change the way this technique plays out. Even though it's still the same technique, it just might be different targets. And this is a great example of that. So my hands are out here to grab both my hands, kind of like I'm going to do begging hands. Okay. Instead, what I do is kind of do what I do at glancing spear, technique number 1, where I cross my arms. We also did this in grip of death on the opposite side. Not grip of death. Gripping talon, where my right hand was grabbed. I use my left hand to pin and roll and hurt that wrist. It's the same thing here. Okay, I take my right hand as my left leg steps forward, and I swing underneath to cross his arms. And I kind of pin his hand to my hand. And as I go forward, I roll my arms and shoulders and spin clockwise and towards 3 o'clock, 3:30, 4 o'clock in that area, and dump his hands away. I go into a slight reverse bow right here because I want to generate power. I really want my opponent flying into me because I'm jerking his arms towards me. So here, pull in, throw the hands away, and reverse this motion back to 12 with a left back knuckle and a right punch to a solar plexus. Okay? Now here's the key. I want to try to hit everything on his body to the right side. I'm trying to strike the right side of his face. Okay? If I strike him straight, then he wants to fall backwards. If I strike him to the left side of the face, he turns to the right. Typically, if I strike to the right side, he wants to turn him that way, to my right, to his left. Okay? So I'm going to try to turn him to 130 if I'm facing 12. So we step in, we roll, we come back in and punch. Now, if this back knuckle hits him flush in the nose, my second vertical back knuckle or rolling back knuckle, depending on the distance here, is going to take over and continue or try to start this technique going to the right so we can stay on track here, okay? And you'll see what I mean. So from this piggyback strike here, my left hand's gonna check his arms down, my right hand's gonna loop right over and roll a punch right to his face, okay? So if I hit him in the right side of the jaw or the right side of the chin and turn his head towards 730, I'm going to do a right inward elbow to the same side of his face, pushing him the same direction. Okay, so I come in and strike. So I'm striking into the left, he's going to the right. Now if I get that to work, I just reverse bow and I do a hammer fist to his right kidney. I'm going around his back. You may need to see this in class or get some clarification by having me do it on a body, which I don't have available right now. So you're just gonna have to play along with me for a minute here, okay? So we're here, we step in with our left foot, hook, throw it away, reverse, punch. Immediately from this punch, if I do hit him flush in the nose, he's gonna go back, I gotta chase him down, punch to the right side of his face, okay? And drive an elbow to the right side of his jaw, unwind, left hand goes over to the top, hammer fist. And now I've got him, his right foot here, left foot here. Sometimes they're turned a little bit to the angle because I hit him hard enough going to the left, his left,
that his right foot's towards 730, left foot's towards 130. If that's the case, I need to cross behind and buckle out his left leg, so I cross back. If he's really shallow here and the angle is from 730 to 130, then I get a spin in a big circle here to buckle this leg. Okay, it's going to take doing it one time with the body, you'll understand. And now from here, I throw a knee to the inside of his right knee here, and as I plant, I back knuckle to the face, and I'm out. That's Avenue 1. Avenue 2, or Road 2, looks exactly the same. If I did the technique, see, Mr. Stevens, that looks the exact same thing. I can't tell what you're doing. Same technique, different targets. If I do this technique and I hit him straight in the face, I hit him straight in the face, and then my elbow turns into the right because I hit the left side of his face, because that's pretty natural alignment when we're doing this technique on somebody. I don't get his back anymore. I get the front of his body because I didn't make his left leg go towards 130. So I just continue my technique and hit to the liver. And this is an easy straight buckle to his left leg. Bring up the knee to his right leg, right where it is. Back up to the face. Okay? The technique works the same. Whatever leg goes to the back. Doesn't change anything. Do the side. Okay, leap of death. Great technique. It's against a right step through punch, one person. As they throw the punch, I step back with my right foot. And as I do that, I do a right outward parry. Okay? I turn, grab the wrist, and as I'm grabbing that wrist, I shoot a heel palm to the back of his elbow. I have a habit of doing this, which is probably like this, right? Okay? And I'm going to reverse that motion and do a back knuckle to the ribs. So it becomes one circle. Boom. See my footwork? I'm kind of doing like thundering hammers, just going backwards rather than to the front. Okay? Just going backwards. Generating power with my hips like a baseball player. Okay? Boom. Now my left hand goes behind his shoulder. I pull in with his right wrist, and I throw him to the floor. And I'm going to throw him towards about 530. Okay? I don't want to split hairs. You can throw him anywhere you want to. As long as his feet is towards you, then the technique is on track. Okay? It's pretty easy to get that to happen. So 1, 2, throw. And now I'm going to leap. And I'm going to go into a diamond stance. My heels hit the kidneys. And I'm going to come down with 2 heel palms to the back of the head. I'm going to come a little closer to the camera so you can see my motion. Okay? So when I land, boom, to the head. And now I grab his face with 2 claws and I claw upwards as I go into a concave stance. So I bring my knees together. A la, what's that technique? Squat and sacrifice. Okay? And I pull them up. We used to call this like a camel clutch back in the 80s in WWF wrestling. That's what they would call it, not me. But. So here. And now my right hand is going to continue that clawing motion as my left hand does a chop to the back of the ear, causing his neck to crack or break or flex super deep, right? And as I do that here, I drive my right hand sword to the bridge of his nose. And now I'm going to drop my left knee into his spine, and we call this a bounce technique, okay? Where I'm kind of catapulting off him. So I come low into his rib cage, and I heel palm the back of his head, check it with my right hand, and let that compression, let the ribs being compressed kind of shoot you back up in the air when you come back up out of your stance. Kind of catapult you up. I'm going to plant to the right side of his body with my left foot. As my right leg comes around, does a downward looping ball kick or roundhouse kick to his ear, to the back of his head, or the base of his neck. Okay? So here, 1, reverse. Look at my hips; they're turning. And if he goes way over there, then I got to leap in. 1, pull, rip. I haven't done anything with my legs. My legs are just in the concave stance to pin him to the ground. Okay? From here, I don't do anything. I pull up, claw, chop. Now I pivot to 730. As I smash his face to the ground, right hand's gonna check. My left leg goes right into his spine, to his rib cage, and let that bounce me back up as I shoot over. I just twist counterclockwise. Come on to 9 o'clock, and our angle has changed. If I do it the opposite way, strike the elbow, back to the ribs, push him to the front. Diamond stance, concave stance, break, snap, chop. Leap of death. Cool technique. Whew, protecting fans. This is against a right punch and to a left punch, same attacker. Okay? So I'm standing naturally, throws a left punch. He's facing me, so his left is on my right side. Remember that, okay? If it's a right punch, then this technique would go a lot differently. I would do something in blue belt or something in purple belt. But it's the left to the right that changes this. So as he punches with the left, I'm gonna slip, okay? I'm also gonna parry, inward left hand parry. As the right hand comes, my right hand goes vertical. Now look where I'm starting to go. If I was facing this way, you can see it. Let's say the TV is 12 o'clock. I step to 10 o'clock, parry. I parry with my right hand, so I don't get hit by that right punch, and I'm now in a left forward bow facing 10 o'clock or 10:30, okay? So I'm shifting my angle up to the corner of the room. So I step to the angle, I turn, shift towards the angle. Now, as soon as that punch goes whizzing by my head, if I'm that lucky, I'm gonna turn, and just like I did Leap of Death, I parry, should be stepping back, I parry, grab. Parry, grab. 1, 2, and I'm gonna pull his right hand past my right hip to cancel out his height. As I do that, I'm gonna poke to the eyes with my left hand. You see my cat stance? I'm gonna do these together. Okay, so we're gonna time those two moves together. Very cool technique. It's also in long form 4. So I poke low with my toes, and I poke high to his eyes with my fingers here. And now I'm gonna land and throw a right inward horizontal forearm, elbow with my forearm to his ribs, stand him back up. We do this in Gathering Clouds, same type of concept. I wanna keep my opponent up, okay? So 1, 2, turn and poke, land, elbow, okay? And now what I'm gonna do, my left hand is kind of chambered by my side here with an open hand. I'm gonna go strike right down to the solar plexus of my left hand. As that's happening, I'm gonna throw, you see my right hand coming down low. Okay, I'm using my left strike to check his height. So my right hand is available to chamber. Okay, economy of motion, guys. In this motion, you can see my leg rotating and my hand rotating on the same orbit. Okay? But what I'm really doing here is setting up this scoop kick to the groin. So as I'm turning, scoop. You know, now that I think about this, it's kind of a habit. I probably shouldn't even drive my legs back into a cat stance at all. Okay? I should just strike from point of origin. I just said economy of motion, and I'm sitting there breaking it because of this stance. I'm so used to going into this stance here, but I did it again when I don't need to. So right from point of origin this time, I'm going to scoop. If I was coming back to kick, then that would make more sense. But if it's here, just rip it backwards, right? That makes a lot more sense. Okay, so from here, I come in here, scoop, and as your eyes come forward, I hook with a 2-finger hook as I step back to 730 with my right foot. So let's do it backwards now. Parry, forward bow. Poke to the corner, so I'm going towards, for me, this is 130, right? Poke, land, elbow. Strike down, scoop the groin, his head comes forward, right hand comes in and rips. Now you can change this at the end here. Some people love the timing of, when I get to this point here, I come in and poke, throw my elbow, I come in and rotate this, and now I come in with the claw, or the hook to the eyes. Because I hit him with the solar plexus, the head comes forward. So it's 1, 2, and then rip, and you're out. I don't care how you would do this. I don't see any difference, okay? Maybe that's not true. If I was to miss this heel pound to the solar plexus, and maybe hit him in the chest where it puts him away, pushes him back, then this probably ain't gonna reach anymore. So in one way, throwing the kick first, because of the length of your leg and the distance, or if I strike and hook right away, I know he's gonna be in my range. So this might feel a little goofier here, then insert this right, the inward right hand hook to the eyes. It feels a little goofier, but to me it might be more foolproof than the other way, which feels more comfortable, for me anyway. And a lot of students who've been at this range where it's hook and scoop. So you need to play with that and say, gee, what feels better for me? What's the best bang for the buck? Could I miss if I do it one way versus the other more, right? Let's go to the side of it. Hook, parry, pull, poke, plant. Swing down, hook to the eyes, bring your kick through. Or, here, down, hook, the eyes, then scoop. Whatever works. I like to come in from here and throw a vertical punch to the solar plexus, just like I do in Gathering Clouds. Just a fun little ending to it. Okay, Deceptive Panther. This is a tough little technique, but it's also very easy, okay? You'll see what I mean as we go through this technique. This is, again, somebody that does a feint kick or a double kick. MMA, they'll call this a question mark kick. And what it is when somebody throws a straight ball kick, maybe to get you to react to this kick, and as you come down to block it or to grab this kick, I come over the top and throw a roundhouse kick to your head. It's called a question mark kick because it's shaped like a question mark, okay? Because of that, I want to be able to block universally from low to high, because I don't know if that's what's going to happen. I don't know where this kick is going to go, because he's feinting me. Maybe we're sparring and he keeps feinting, so I'm getting used to having to protect myself with a universal block so I can protect this whole chunk of my body, okay? So I'm going to right neutral bow, and as that kick comes, now if you remember, we go back to Detour from Doom as a green belt. If you're here watching this video, then you've already learned Detour from Doom. I take my left foot to get away from these round kicks. I walk the circle. I bring my right foot back here, right? I throw my kick and I plant forward with my punch. Deceptive Panther is the same concept, except for rather than retreating then striking, I'm gonna go right into my strike. So the way we do that with this technique is, as the kick comes, you know, I try to block low. Here comes that big head kick, so I go to block it. I go up the circle, but this time I take my left foot and bring it to my right. New concept, okay? So I come up here. And now, if I am using a universal block or universal strike, okay, it's going to send his right leg back, reverse of that orbit that he threw it. So if he threw it inwards, clockwise, then I push it away counterclockwise, okay? When you practice this technique on a body, when they throw that right kick, don't just block it and let the kick fall right here, because I don't really have access to his left leg. I want him to be more in a horse stance in this technique to open him up. So when he throws that kick, I am going to strike into his leg to move that kick away. Now I have beautiful access to his left knee, which allows my next move to access it perfectly. So I come up the circle, block, and as that leg is still in the air, being thrown back towards where it started, I take a right knife edge kick towards 12, 1230, and push his leg out in that same direction, maybe even a 130. So if I'm the bad guy, and I'm throwing this 1-2 kick, my right leg gets pulled out here, gives him access to my leg gets shot out this way when they kick it. Okay, does that make sense? If you can get past this part and get that part to work, the rest of the technique is super fun and easy, okay? So it's up the circle, push the leg, strike the left side, the inside of the left leg, and as I plant with towards 12 with my right foot into a right neutral bow, I bring a back knuckle to the base of his neck or the back of his ear. I strike with that one as soon as this one's hitting, my other hand is already up in the air, and it's gonna come down and follow suit. To get some power, I'm going to sink down to a rotating in-place twist stance as my left hand crashes at the base of the neck. So I have to go back of the ear, boom, in-place rotating twist, base of the neck. My right hand continues through its target here. It's preloading my hand, okay? So I'm here, I come up, 1, 2, plant, whack, rotating twist. Left hand's gonna roll over and grab his shoulder. Remember, I hit the base of the neck, so I just go to the shoulder and I pin him downwards. And now look at this bad boy right here. Just reverse that motion with an upward lifting back knuckle to his face as I unwind counterclockwise. And as I'm facing 6 o'clock, looking over my right shoulder, depending on the distance, I throw an upward lifting leg kick between his legs, or a heel kick if I'm closer. And I cover out towards 5:30. Okay? I do it from the side. Right back knuckle, rotating twist right side. Left hammer fist to the neck, roll over, let my right hand continue to drop, unwind. And that kick is going to be all dependent on the distance between you and your opponent. If I am back here, Deceptive Panther. Okay, now we got Courting the Tiger, and that takes us to halfway through this belt. Courting the Tiger is when you have somebody grabbing my shoulder on both sides, so guy A, guy B, or guy 1, guy 2, just like we did in Falcons of Force, except for now they're grabbing my wrists. Take it to another level, okay? So they're kind of contact controlling me, right? So I want to do the same thing to them, to manipulate them a little bit. To me, this is one of my favorite maneuvers, or one of these moves in this technique is one of my favorite moves in the whole system. It's brutal. I love it, I love it, I love it. So what I'm going to do here is kind of deal with both these guys at once. They're escorting me away somewhere. They're trying to grab me and pull me. So what I want to do is take my right hand, and we do this in long form 3. We also do this in striking set 1, is where I bring my right hand towards the back side of his arm, drive my elbow down on top to pin him and bring him into me, okay? So that's what I'm gonna do with my right hand. I'm coming over the top. Now, sometimes it's hard to maneuver through this, so I can turn my shoulders and try to get my left hand to come across, but it's just not easy. If you can break free of this guy and grab his hand, you can kind of pull his hand in and pull this over and throw a punch to his face, just like we do in our technique. Not so easy though. So what I'm gonna do is go towards this guy. I'm going to try to pin this over, and as that's happening, to help alleviate some of this, I'm going to grab his shoulder and yank down, okay? So imagine that I'm grabbing his wrist down here, the arm's coming over, pinning my elbow, grabs my shoulder, and pulls me in. It's probably more confusing than anything, wasn't it? So I'm going to pin, grab, or grab, pin. You have to work this on the body to understand how this part works. It's hard for me to do this in the air with no bodies, or you not with me, but it's just a refresher, right? We're not learning techniques this way. Pin, grab. Now, as this is happening, I'm gonna drive a left elbow down towards the floor. I wanna keep my opponent somewhat close to me. I don't wanna elbow him to the side and him go out towards 9 and take me down with him because he's grabbing me. I just want him to kind of start going downwards, but in place. So I take my right foot and cross behind my left foot towards 8:30 or 7 o'clock if you want to get real technical with our stances, and elbow. And now what I'm going to do is take my right foot and do a right slicing knife edge. That means I'm not thrusting it where I have to plant forward. I'm slicing this way I can do another crossover. So we have 1. I slice his left knee with my right foot, and I do a crossover. So now I've gone to the front, or the back and the front now with my crossovers. And now what I'm going to do is I take a step back with my left leg. I step behind opponent 2. So I'm going to grab some throat on the floor, just so you have an understanding of where he is. This is going to represent gentleman number 2, the gentleman who's trying to hurt me. Okay? So I'm on the line here. So I grab, anchor, or anchor, grab. I just need to take him with me. I step back. See where I am? This is his line of entry. That's his legs. I'm gonna slice kick this guy here, boom, and I twist. So I'm above the line of entry of guy number 2. And now what I'm gonna do is step back with my left foot. So now look where my left leg is. It's behind gentleman number 2 and his right leg. So now what I do is do a knee right behind his leg. I'm always gonna be behind that leg, and it sets up so perfectly this way. I do a knife edge kick to the inside of his left knee. So as I raise his right leg, I scoop right under and chop his left knee out. Just gonna break that leg. Just gonna break that leg. Okay, so here I go 1, slice, plant, step, lift, chop with my leg. And now, since I haven't done enough twist dances, I'm gonna do number 3 at this point. I do a rear twist or rear crossover to the rear as I do a back knuckle to guy number 1. And now I face this guy over here. I do a chicken kick. 1, 2, heel palm to the face. And now I take my right leg and I do a lifting, a calf raise right under his face and cross out behind them again. I'm centered behind my opponents, okay? I call it courting the tiger because he's using his hands to grab me like a tiger, his big old paws. And I'm courting him, I'm taking him with me. 1. See how I time those together? It looks like I'm throwing an elbow, and I kind of am. I'm just using an anchor to keep him with me, and I'm grabbing onto his arm. This is if you can get around the backside. If you can't, maybe from here, I'd step back and roll back knuckles to his groin. And do a whole different technique, right? That we do in 2nd degree brown belt. You haven't learned that yet, so this is your first excursion into this type of attack. Or if you can break free, you can grab and come over the top, punch, go through your technique, but that's not the way is, okay? Ideal phase is I'm grabbing and pulling, anchoring down, slicing against his left knee, he falls to the ground. I come back, I lift, I chop with my right hand, bam, right to the face. So I move him away or knock him to the ground. Chicken kick, 1, 2, heel palm, and just lift right to the chin. Bam! And now we're out. And that is half this belt. Look for the other half soon.